The crisp winter morning painted the mountain forest in shades of white and silver as Alex made his way through the familiar hunting trails of the Northern Cascades. For 20 years he'd walked these paths as both a hunter and wildlife photographer, knowing every ridge and ravine like they were old friends. But on this frigid December dawn, he would stumble upon something that would shake his understanding of both wilderness and humanity. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. A discovery that would connect him to a past he thought he'd left behind in the remote wilderness of Alaska. The freshly fallen snow crunched softly beneath his insulated boots as Alex carefully navigated the winding path, his breath forming delicate clouds in the freezing air. His trusted rifle rested comfortably against his shoulder, though today it felt more like a companion than a tool. The surrounding pines stood like silent sentinels, their branches heavy with snow, creating a natural cathedral in the wilderness he'd come to call his second home. Early morning light filtered through the canopy, casting long shadows across the pristine snow. Alex paused to check his surroundings, years of experience having taught him the value of patience and observation. He'd been tracking what appeared to be elk prints since dawn, but something about the forest felt different today. The usual morning chorus of birds was strangely muted, and there was a tension in the air he couldn't quite explain. As a former wildlife researcher who'd spent years studying predator-prey relationships in Alaska's Denali National Park, Alex had developed an almost sixth sense for the forest's moods. Today, something was off. He adjusted his orange safety vest and checked his camera equipment, ensuring everything was secure in his pack. The dual role of hunter and wildlife photographer had given him a unique perspective on these woods, teaching him to see both the hunter's quarry and the photographer's subject in every creature. The snow had stopped falling about an hour before sunrise, leaving perfect tracking conditions. Alex studied the fresh tracks before him, noting how they crossed and recrossed the trail. Elk typically moved through this area in the early morning, heading down to the sheltered valley to feed. But these tracks told a different story. Something had disturbed their usual pattern. He pulled out his binoculars, scanning the tree. Line for any movement. The forest stretched out before him, a pristine expanse of white, broken only by the dark trunks of towering pines and firs. 20 years of hunting in these mountains had taught him to read the landscape like a book, but today the pages seemed to tell an unfamiliar story. The temperature was dropping, and Alex could feel the cold beginning to seep through his layers, despite his high-quality winter gear. He'd planned to head deeper into the woods, toward his favorite hunting spot near the old avalanche zone. But something made him pause. There was a heaviness to the silence that pressed against his ears, different from the usual peaceful quiet of a snow-covered forest. His hand tightened instinctively on his rifle as he noticed something unusual about the tracks he'd been following. They weren't just elk prints anymore. There were other marks in the snow, ones that made his pulse quicken. As a former researcher who'd spent countless hours tracking and studying wolves in Alaska, he recognized the signs immediately. Wolf tracks, but something about them was wrong. The tracks didn't show the typical pattern of a wolf moving through its territory. Instead, they showed signs of struggle, of movement that seemed constrained and unnatural. Alex's mind flashed back to his years in Alaska, to the wolves he'd studied and come to respect as intelligent social creatures. These tracks told a story of distress. Looking up from the prints, Alex noticed something else: broken branches and disturbed snow about 50 yards ahead. Near a massive old-growth cedar, that marked the boundary between the managed forest and the wilderness area. The tree was ancient, its trunk wider than a car, its branches reaching out like protective arms over the snow-covered ground. His instincts as both a hunter and researcher warred within him. The smart thing would be to continue his hunt, to stick to his original plan. But those same instincts that had kept him alive during his years studying predators in the Alaskan wilderness were now pulling him toward that ancient cedar. Something was wrong, and he couldn't ignore it. As Alex moved closer to the cedar, the silence of the forest seemed to deepen. The only sound was the soft crunch of his boots in the snow and his own measured breathing. Every step was careful, deliberate. He'd learned long ago that in the wilderness rushing could be fatal. But with each step, the feeling of wrongness grew stronger, pushing against his consciousness like a physical force. The morning sun had risen higher now, sending shafts of light through the trees that turned the snow into a field of diamonds. But Alex's attention was focused entirely on what lay ahead, his senses heightened by years of experience in the wilderness. He was no longer thinking like a hunter tracking prey. Now he was moving with the cautious precision of someone approaching something potentially dangerous, yet desperately in need of help. As Alex drew closer to the ancient cedar, a sound caught his attention, faint at first, barely distinguishable from the whisper of wind through the pine needles. He stopped, holding his breath, letting his trained ears filter through the forest's ambient noise. There it was again, a low, guttural sound, somewhere between a whimper and a growl, carried on the frigid mountain air. It was a sound he hadn't heard since his days studying wolf behavior in Denali, but one that was forever etched in his memory, the distress call of a wolf in pain. His heart began to race, not from fear, but from a surge of adrenaline born of 2 decades of wildlife experience. He knew better than most the dangers of approaching an injured wolf, but he also understood these creatures better than most. During his years in Alaska, he'd learned to read their body language, to understand their vocalizations, to recognize the difference between aggression and distress. This sound spoke of pain, of desperation. Alex carefully unslung his rifle, engaging the safety and letting it rest against a nearby tree. If he was going to approach an injured wolf, he needed to do so without appearing threatening. He pulled out his satellite phone, checking for signal. 1 bar, barely enough to make a call if needed. Up here in the Northern Cascades, civilization felt like a distant memory, especially on mornings like this, when the snow muffled every sound and the mist clung to the trees like ghostly fingers. The whimpering grew louder as he approached the massive cedar, its trunk scarred by centuries of wilderness winters. Fresh snow had been disturbed around its base, and as Alex circled wide to get a better view, his breath caught in his throat. There, tied to the ancient tree with what appeared to be heavy-duty climbing rope, was one of the largest wolves he'd ever seen. The animal's coat was a striking mixture of black and silver, telling Alex this was likely a member of the elusive Shadow Valley pack he'd been tracking and photographing for the past 3 years. The wolf's ribs showed through its thick winter coat, suggesting it had been without food for some time. But it was the wolf's eyes that made Alex's heart skip a beat. They were a striking amber color, and despite the animal's obvious distress, they held an intelligence that seemed almost familiar. Alex had documented every known wolf pack in this region through his photography work, spending countless hours observing their behavior and movements. He knew each pack's territory, their hunting patterns, their social dynamics. This wolf, with its distinctive size and coloring, could only be one animal, the alpha male of the Shadow Valley pack, a wolf he'd nicknamed Ghost for its ability to appear and vanish like a shadow in the forest. "Easy there, big guy," Alex whispered, keeping his voice low and steady as he slowly crouched down, maintaining a safe distance. The wolf's ears flicked forward at the sound of his voice, but there was no aggressive response. Instead, those amber eyes fixed on him with an intensity that spoke of exhaustion rather than threat. The rope around the tree had been tied with unusual precision, using knots that Alex recognized from his mountaineering days. These weren't the hasty bindings of amateur trappers. Years of wildlife research had taught Alex to observe before, acting, and now those instincts kicked in. He noted every detail of the scene, the way the rope had been tied, the tracks in the snow, the condition of the wolf. Something about this situation felt deliberate, planned. This wasn't the work of poachers or trophy hunters. They wouldn't have left such a valuable animal alive and tied to a tree. The wolf let out another low whimper, and this time Alex noticed something glinting around its neck. His first thought was a research collar, but as he edged slightly closer, careful to watch the animal's body language, he realized it was something else entirely. There, partially hidden by the wolf's thick fur, was what appeared to be a metal tag of some kind. The discovery sent a jolt through Alex's body, triggering memories he'd thought long buried. 5 years ago, during his final season in Denali, he'd been part of a classified research project, one that few people knew existed. The project had involved wolves, but not just any wolves. Specially trained animals that had been part of a controversial government program. A program that officially had never existed. The wolf watched him with those intelligent amber eyes, and Alex found himself remembering the last time he'd seen that particular shade of gold. It had been in the eyes of another wolf, one that had been part of that secret program, one that had disappeared along with its handler under mysterious circumstances that had ultimately led to Alex leaving Alaska and the research world behind. The wind picked up, sending swirls of snow dancing around them, and the wolf's ears twitched at each new sound. But those eyes never left Alex's face, and in them he saw something that made his wilderness-hardened heart ache. Recognition. This wasn't just any wolf, and this wasn't just any situation. Somehow his past had found him here in these remote mountains, bringing with it mysteries he'd thought were buried in the Alaskan wilderness. Alex methodically began documenting everything about the scene, his researcher's training taking over despite the shock of his discovery. He pulled out his camera, carefully photographing the rope knots, the disturbed snow, and the wolf's condition from various angles. The morning light had strengthened now, revealing more details that only deepened the mystery. The wolf's fur, though matted in places, showed signs of recent human care. There were areas where someone had clearly treated wounds, using techniques Alex recognized from his research days. These weren't the actions of someone who meant to harm the animal. They were the careful ministrations of someone who understood wolves, someone who knew exactly what they were doing. As he worked, Alex spoke softly to the wolf, maintaining a steady stream of calming words. "Let's figure out what's going on here, shall we?" The wolf's response was remarkable. Instead of showing fear or aggression, it maintained an almost eerie calm, watching Alex's movements with an awareness that seemed to transcend wild animal behavior. This wasn't just the tolerance of an exhausted creature. It was the calculated observation of a trained animal. Alex's mind raced back to Project Nightwatch, the classified program he'd been part of in Alaska. The project had explored the possibility of training wolves for remote wilderness surveillance, utilizing their incredible sensory capabilities and natural stealth. The program had pushed the boundaries of what was thought possible in terms of wolf intelligence and human-wolf cooperation. But it had also raised serious ethical questions, questions that had ultimately led to its sudden and mysterious shutdown. Moving carefully, Alex edged closer to examine the metal tag he'd spotted. The wolf remained still, its behavior so unlike a wild animal that it sent chills down Alex's spine. When he was within arm's reach, he could finally make out the engravings on the tag. His hands trembled as he read the numbers. NW735. Night Watch. This wasn't just any trained wolf. This was one of the original program animals, one that had disappeared along with several others when the project was terminated. "You're a long way from Alaska, friend," Alex muttered, his mind struggling to process the implications. The wolf's ears twitched at his voice, and for a moment Alex could have sworn he saw recognition in those amber eyes. He remembered working with these animals, remembered their unprecedented capacity for understanding human commands and behavior. But this particular wolf, something about it nagged at his memory. Pulling out his satellite phone again, Alex quickly photographed the tag and sent the images to a secure email address he hadn't used in years. If anyone could help him understand what he was dealing with, it would be Dr. Sarah Chen, his former colleague from the Nightwatch project. She'd been the lead behaviorist, the one who developed many of the training protocols. The wolf suddenly tensed, its ears swiveling toward something Alex couldn't hear. Years of wilderness experience had taught him to trust an animal's senses, and he quickly scanned the surrounding forest. The morning mist had begun to lift, but visibility was still limited among the snow-laden trees. Then he heard it, the distant sound of an engine somewhere up the logging road that ran along the ridge above them. Alex had to make a quick decision. Whatever was going on here, whatever had led to a Nightwatch wolf being tied to a tree. In the Northern Cascades, it was bigger than just finding an abandoned animal. The precision of the knots, the medical care the wolf had received, the presence of a Nightwatch tag, everything pointed to something deliberate, something planned. Moving quickly but carefully, Alex began examining the ropes. The knots were complex but familiar, standard military-grade restraints, another detail that set off alarm bells in his mind. The Nightwatch project had been a joint operation between wildlife researchers and military personnel, using techniques that combined animal behavior science with military precision. As he worked to free the wolf, Alex maintained physical contact, speaking in the specific tone and rhythm they'd used in the program. The wolf's response was immediate and clear. It remembered the training. This wasn't just muscle memory, this was active recall of specific protocols. The animal's behavior became more alert, more focused, as if awakening from a long sleep. "Easy now," Alex murmured, as the last rope came free. The wolf stood shakily, its muscles stiff from being restrained. Despite its obvious hunger and fatigue, it made no attempt to flee. Instead, it stayed close to Alex, displaying the controlled behavior that had been the hallmark of the Nightwatch program. This was confirmation, if he needed it, that this was no ordinary wolf. The sound of the engine grew closer, and Alex made another quick decision. In his pack, he carried emergency supplies, including high-protein trail mix and jerky. He pulled these out now, offering small pieces to the wolf. The animal took the food carefully, using the precise, gentle mouth technique they'd trained into the program wolves. Each detail added to the growing certainty that this was no coincidence. As the wolf ate, Alex examined it more closely. Beyond the obvious signs of recent restraint and hunger, He could see old scars that told a story of extensive training and possibly combat situations. The Night Watch wolves had been trained for various military applications, including reconnaissance and patrol support. This wolf had clearly seen active service. The engine sound was very close now, and the wolf's behavior changed subtly. Its posture became more alert, its muscles tensing in a way that Alex recognized from his research days. The animal was responding to a potential threat, but doing so with trained precision rather than wild instinct. Alex found himself responding in kind, falling back on protocols he hadn't used in years. "Track," he whispered, using one of the basic Night Watch commands. The wolf's response was immediate. It moved into a standard reconnaissance position, exactly as they'd trained the program animals to do. But there was something more in its behavior, something urgent in the way it kept looking at Alex. Years of working with these incredible animals had taught him to read their attempts at communication. The wolf was trying to tell him something. In the distance, the engine sound cut off abruptly. The silence that followed was heavy with tension. The wolf's ears were pricked forward, its entire body focused on something up the ridge. Alex found himself remembering the last days of Project Nightwatch, the unexplained accidents, the disappearances, the questions that were never answered. Whatever had happened then, whatever had led to the project's shutdown, had somehow followed. This wolf all the way from Alaska to these remote mountains. And now, it seemed, those same forces were about to make their presence known. Alex's heart rate quickened as he assessed their situation with the methodical precision ingrained from years of wilderness survival training. The wolf, this highly trained Nightwatch operative, was clearly alerting him to an approaching threat. But something about its behavior suggested this wasn't a random encounter. The animal's posture, its deliberate movements, even the way it positioned itself between Alex and the direction of the engine sound, spoke of protective training that went beyond standard Nightwatch protocols. The distant engine sound had stopped, but now Alex could hear the crunch of boots on snow, multiple sets, moving with tactical precision through the forest. The wolf's ears twitched at each sound, its muscles coiled with tension, but still maintaining perfect discipline. This was no ordinary military-trained animal. This was an elite operative, and everything about its behavior suggested it had been waiting for someone specific. Alex's mind raced back to his final days with Project Nightwatch, to conversations held in hushed tones about capabilities that went beyond what was officially documented. There had been rumors about a subset of wolves, ones that had shown unprecedented levels of intelligence and training capacity. These animals had been part of a classified extension of the program, one that even most Nightwatch personnel hadn't known about. The wolf suddenly pressed against Alex's leg, using a specific pressure pattern that triggered another memory. It was a communication technique they'd developed but never officially implemented, a way for the wolves to signal hidden dangers to their handlers. 3 distinct pressures: immediate threat, multiple hostiles, handler in danger. The realization hit Alex like a physical blow. This wolf wasn't just trained, it was trying to warn him. Moving with practiced stealth, Alex retrieved his rifle from where he'd left it, his movements smooth and deliberate to avoid creating noise in the snow-covered forest. The wolf matched his movements precisely, demonstrating a level of tactical and coordination that confirmed Alex's growing suspicions. This had to be one of the Echo Unit wolves, the elite subset of Nightwatch operatives that had disappeared just before the program's shutdown. The footsteps were closer now, and Alex could distinguish at least 4 distinct patterns. They were moving in a standard search formation, one he recognized from his military liaison days with Night Watch. These weren't random hunters or curious locals. These were trained operators. The wolf's behavior confirmed his assessment, its muscles trembling slightly with the effort of maintaining its disciplined stance rather than responding to natural fight-or-flight instincts. Alex's satellite phone vibrated silently in his pocket, Dr. Chen's response to the photos he'd sent. He couldn't risk checking it now, but her quick reply suggested she'd recognized something significant about the wolf's tag. The implications sent his mind spinning back to his last conversation with her 5 years ago in a secure facility deep in the Alaskan wilderness. She had tried to warn him then about something happening within Night Watch, something that went beyond ethical concerns about animal training. The wolf's ears suddenly swiveled toward a new sound, a barely audible electronic chirp that made Alex's blood run cold. He recognized that sound from his Night Watch days, tactical radio communications. Whoever was out there was running a professional operation, complete with military-grade equipment. The wolf's reaction confirmed his suspicions, its body language shifting into a specific defensive pattern they'd developed for high-risk scenarios. Years of wildlife photography had taught Alex to move silently through dense forest, and now he put those skills to use, carefully positioning himself behind a massive fallen log that offered both cover and a clear view of the approaching threats. The wolf moved with him, maintaining perfect tactical positioning. Its behavior was so precise, so perfectly aligned with Night Watch protocols, that Alex couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just a random encounter. The wolf had been waiting for someone who would recognize what it was, someone who would understand its significance. Through the morning mist, Alex caught his first glimpse of the search team, 4 figures moving with military precision through the trees, wearing winter camouflage that nearly blended with the snow-covered landscape. Their equipment was professional grade, but unmarked, another red flag that sent Alex's mind racing back to classified briefings about private military contractors interested in the Night Watch program. The wolf's breathing changed subtly, and Alex recognized the pattern, another hidden communication technique. 3 measured breaths, a pause, 2 quick ones. In the original Night Watch protocols, this had been a signal for immediate extraction needed. The wolf wasn't just warning him, it was actively requesting help using techniques that only a handful of people would recognize. Alex's time with Night Watch had taught him to read between the lines of official reports, to recognize when something bigger was happening behind the scenes. The presence of this wolf, here in his hunting grounds, displaying elite-level training, and trying to communicate specific warnings, suggested his old suspicions about the program's shutdown had been correct. This wasn't about ethical concerns or budget cuts. Something had gone wrong, something serious enough to scatter both the wolves and their handlers to the winds. Moving with calculated precision, Alex began working his way backward through the underbrush, using every trick he'd learned in 20 years of stalking wildlife to move silently through the snow-covered forest. The wolf matched his movements perfectly, its paw placement exactly matching his footsteps to minimize sound, an advanced infiltration technique that had been part of the Echo Unit training program. The search team was spreading out now, their movement patterns suggesting they were following tracking protocols. Alex noticed they were paying particular attention to the areas around large trees. They knew about the wolf's last position and were working outward in a standard search pattern. These weren't just random mercenaries. These were people familiar with Night Watch operations. Alex's hand brushed against his satellite phone, and he allowed himself a moment to think about Dr. Chen's response, waiting unread. Sarah had been more than just a colleague. She'd been one of the few people who'd shared his concerns about the program's darker aspects. If she'd responded so quickly to his photos, she must have recognized something significant about this particular wolf. The wolf suddenly froze, its entire body becoming unnaturally still. Alex immediately recognized the behavior. They'd trained the Echo Unit wolves to react this way when detecting electronic surveillance equipment. His mind raced through the implications. These weren't just ground troops, they had technical surveillance support. The operation to recover this wolf was far more sophisticated than he'd initially realized. Through the trees, Alex caught fragments of whispered communications from the search team. Their voices were professionally controlled, but he could detect an undercurrent of urgency in their tone. They weren't just looking for a missing military asset, they were racing against something. The wolf's behavior suggested it understood this too. Its movements now had a deliberate quality that spoke of purposeful evasion rather than simple escape. Years of tracking wildlife had taught Alex to read the forest's natural rhythms, to recognize when something was disrupting the normal flow of wilderness life. Now he noticed details he'd initially missed. The complete absence of birdsong, the way small animals had vacated the area, the unnatural stillness that spoke of multiple human presences disturbing the forest's usual patterns. The wolf pressed against his leg again, this time using a more complex pattern of pressure points. This was advanced Nightwatch communication, part of the Echo Unit's specialized training. The message was clear. They needed to move, not just away from the search team, but towards something specific. The wolf wasn't just trying to escape, it had a mission, and somehow Alex had become part of it. As they carefully made their way through the snow-covered underbrush, Alex's mind worked through the implications of everything he'd observed. The wolf's precise training, the professional search team, the sophisticated surveillance equipment. All of it pointed to something much bigger than a simple recovery operation. This was about something that had happened within Project Nightwatch, something significant enough to warrant this level of resources 5 years after the program's official shutdown. The wolf's behavior continued to provide clues. Its movements weren't random. It was leading them in a specific direction, using terrain features for cover, in a way that demonstrated not just training, but tactical planning. This wasn't just about escape. The wolf was following a predetermined route, one that suggested it had been prepared for this exact scenario. Alex's expertise in both wildlife behavior and military operations told him they were dealing with something unprecedented. The Echo Unit wolves had been exceptional, but this level of independent operation, this ability to adapt and communicate complex intentions, went beyond anything he'd seen during his time with the program. Whatever had happened, after his departure from Nightwatch, it had produced results that exceeded their wildest theoretical projections. The sound of the search team's movements began to fade behind them, but Alex knew better than to relax. His years in the wilderness had taught him that the most dangerous moments often came when you thought you were safe. The wolf seemed to share this assessment, maintaining its tactical awareness even as they put distance between themselves and their pursuers. This wasn't just training, it was experience. This wolf had done this before. Finally reaching a relatively safe distance from their pursuers, Alex used the brief respite to check Dr. Chen's message on his satellite phone. His hands were steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his system. years of wildlife photography, had taught him to control his fine motor skills even in high-stress situations. The wolf maintained a vigilant guard position, its attention divided between their back trail and the surrounding forest with professional precision. The message from Sarah was brief, but shocking. NW735 was Marcus Kane's partner. If you found him, you need to get somewhere secure immediately. This goes deeper than we thought. Don't trust official channels. I'll contact you through the old emergency protocol. Keep him safe, Alex. Lives depend on it. Marcus Kane. The name hit Alex like a physical blow. Kane had been Nightwatch's most successful handler, the one who'd pushed the boundaries of what they thought possible with wolf training. He'd also been Alex's closest friend within the program, until his mysterious disappearance just days before the project's shutdown. The official story had been that Kane had suffered a psychological break, but Alex had never believed it. The wolf, Kane's wolf, was watching him now, those intelligent amber eyes seeming to understand the significance of the moment. Alex remembered how Kane had worked with this particular animal, how he'd insisted there was something special about it, something that went beyond their established training protocols. At the time, Alex had attributed his friend's certainty to handler bias. Now he wasn't so sure. "You've been carrying secrets for a long time, haven't you, boy?" Alex murmured softly. The wolf's ears twitched at his voice, and its posture shifted subtly, a response that spoke of recognition not just of human speech, but of specific context. This wasn't just sophisticated training. This was genuine comprehension. Moving carefully through the snow-covered forest, Alex began piecing together the puzzle before him. Kane had been working on something in the months before his disappearance, something he'd only hinted at in careful conversations away from the project's surveillance systems. He'd claimed they'd achieved breakthroughs that went beyond military. Applications, developments that some people thought were too dangerous to exist. The wolf suddenly stiffened, its attention focusing sharply on something ahead of them. Alex froze, trusting the animal's superior senses. Through the trees, he caught a glimpse of movement, not the tactical precision of their pursuers, but something else. A flash of dark fur, a controlled movement that spoke of coordinated action rather than random animal behavior. More wolves, not wild ones. Their movement patterns were too deliberate, too coordinated. These were more Nightwatch operatives, and their behavior suggested they were part of a coordinated operation. The implications staggered Alex. Kane hadn't just disappeared, he'd executed a planned extraction, taking key assets with him. But why? And why were they surfacing now, 5 years later? The wolf beside him, Kane's wolf, moved with purposeful intent toward the others, using a specific pattern of movement that Alex recognized from the program's advanced protocols. The responding behaviors from the other wolves confirmed his suspicions. These were Echo Unit operatives, the elite core of the Nightwatch program. Their presence here, working in coordinated patterns without human handlers, suggested capabilities far beyond what had been officially documented. As they moved deeper into the forest, Alex noticed they were following a specific route. The wolves weren't just moving away from their pursuers, they were heading toward something. Their movements had the precision of a planned operation, suggesting this encounter hadn't been random. Kane's wolf had been left for someone to find, someone who would recognize its significance and understand what to do next. The sound of helicopter rotors suddenly cut through the morning air, distant but growing closer. The wolves responded instantly, their movements becoming more urgent but no less coordinated. They were leading him somewhere specific, and time was clearly running out. Alex's military training kicked in, helping him read the tactical situation. The helicopter's approach pattern suggested a search operation, probably equipped with thermal imaging technology. Moving quickly but carefully through the snow, Alex followed the wolves' lead. His mind was racing, processing everything he knew about the Night Watch program, about Kane's final weeks, about the circumstances surrounding the project's shutdown. Sarah's warning echoed in his head. This went deeper than they'd thought. The presence of professional search teams and aerial support proved she was right. Someone was willing to commit serious resources to recover these animals. The wolves led him to a seemingly random section of forest, but Alex's experienced eye caught the subtle signs. Slight depressions in the snow, marks on trees that would look natural to most observers, but spoke of human activity to those who knew what to look for. Kane had prepared this area, set it up as some kind of waypoint or cache. The lead wolf, Kane's partner, approached a fallen log that looked like any other in the winter forest. But its behavior was deliberate, specific. It began pouring at the snow in a precise pattern, revealing something that made Alex's breath catch. A hidden compartment, professionally crafted and weatherproofed. Inside was a waterproof case, the dull kind used for sensitive military equipment. The helicopter was getting closer, its sound echoing off the mountains. They had minutes at most before the thermal imaging would pick up their heat signatures through the canopy. Alex quickly retrieved the case, noting its military-grade construction and sophisticated locking mechanism. The wolf watched him intently, its behavior suggesting it was waiting for something specific. Alex remembered Kane's passion for encryption, his love of complex puzzles and hidden meanings. The lock wasn't electronic. That would be too easily compromised. Instead, it had a mechanical combination system, one that required specific knowledge to open. Knowledge that Kane would have made sure his closest friend would remember. The wolves moved restlessly around them, their behavior indicating increasing urgency. The helicopter's sound pattern had changed. They were starting a search grid. Alex's fingers moved over the lock, his mind racing back to conversations with Kane, to shared jokes and hidden meanings. Then it hit him. The combination would be something from their shared past, something significant but not obvious. As the lock clicked open, Alex felt a surge of emotion. Kane had planned this, had set up this elaborate system knowing someone would eventually need to find it. The case contained a laptop, heavily modified and custom-built, along with a set of documents and what appeared to be specialized research equipment. But it was the handwritten note on top that caught Alex's attention, written in Kane's distinctive style. "If you're reading this, they found what we created. Keep them safe, my friend. The truth is in their eyes." The helicopter was dangerously close now. The wolves were already moving, their behavior suggesting they had rehearsed this scenario. They knew where to go next, how to avoid detection. Kane's wolf stayed close to Alex, clearly intended to guide him. Whatever was on this laptop, whatever truth Kane had discovered, it was worth all this elaborate preparation and planning. Looking into the wolf's amber eyes, Alex saw what Kane had tried to tell him years ago. These weren't just trained animals. They were something more, something that blurred the line between animal intelligence and human consciousness. Something that powerful people wanted to keep hidden. The truth is in their eyes. Kane's last message suddenly took on new meaning. Alex packed the laptop carefully in his own weatherproof bag, securing the documents and equipment. The wolves were already moving out, their formation designed to minimize their heat signature profile from above. Kane's wolf waited patiently, its eyes conveying an urgency that went beyond animal instinct. They had to move fast now. Somewhere in the data Kane had left behind were answers about what had really happened in Project Nightwatch, about why Kane had disappeared, and about what these extraordinary animals truly represented. But first, they had to survive. The next few hours, the hunters above weren't just looking for missing military assets. They were trying to keep something hidden, something revolutionary. And in the intelligent amber eyes of the wolf beside him, Alex saw both the question and the answer. Kane hadn't suffered a breakdown, he'd made a discovery. Something that changed everything they thought they knew about the boundary between human and animal consciousness. Something worth hiding, something worth killing for. The helicopter's thermal imaging equipment would make escape through open terrain impossible. But Alex knew these mountains held secrets, natural features that could mask their heat signatures. Years of hunting and wildlife photography had taught him every quirk of the landscape, including the network of limestone caves that honeycombed the lower slopes. The wolves seemed to know this too, their coordinated movements suggesting they were heading for one particular cave system. Kane's wolf took point, leading them through the dense underbrush with practiced efficiency. The other Nightwatch wolves moved in a protective formation that spoke of extensive tactical training, their movements synchronized to minimize visible disturbance of the snow-covered forest. Alex found himself marveling at their sophistication. This wasn't just trained behavior, this was adaptive tactical thinking. The sound of the helicopter was joined by others, creating a search pattern that threatened to box them in. Alex recognized the strategy from his military liaison days. They were using multiple aircraft to herd their targets toward a predetermined containment zone. But whoever was running this operation hadn't counted on the wolves' advanced training, or Alex's intimate knowledge of the terrain. Moving deeper into the forest, they approached a steep limestone cliff face that most locals avoided. Decades of weathering had created a complex system of caves and tunnels, many of them interconnected in ways that weren't marked on any official maps. Alex had discovered some of them during his wildlife studies, using them as photography blinds to document predator behavior. Now they offered something more crucial, a way to escape both visual detection and thermal imaging. The wolves led him to a particular cave entrance, partially hidden behind a curtain of ice-covered vegetation. Alex immediately recognized why they'd chosen this spot. The cave's natural geometry created a cold air sink that would help mask their thermal signatures. Kane had clearly done his homework, probably spending months mapping out escape routes and safe houses across the region. Inside the cave, the temperature dropped significantly. The wolves moved with certainty through the darkness, their eyes better adapted to the low light than human vision. Alex pulled out his emergency flashlight, keeping the beam pointed downward to minimize reflection off the cave walls. The beam revealed bootprints in the sandy cave floor, old ones, but clearly human. Kane had been here, preparing this route. They moved deeper into the cave system, following a path that seemed random but showed subtle signs of preparation, small markers that would be invisible to anyone who didn't know what to look for. Alex's mind was racing, processing everything. He'd observed about these extraordinary animals. Their behavior went beyond any training he'd seen during his official time with Nightwatch. They weren't just following programmed responses. They were demonstrating tactical awareness and decision-making capabilities that shouldn't have been possible. The laptop in his pack felt heavy with significance. Whatever Kane had discovered, whatever breakthroughs he'd achieved with these wolves, it had been important enough to warrant this elaborate contingency plan. The presence of professional search teams and military-grade equipment suggested powerful. People were still actively trying to contain that discovery. After about 15 minutes of careful navigation through the cave system, they reached a larger chamber that showed signs of human modification. Small supply caches were hidden in natural crevices, containing everything from emergency rations to first aid supplies. Cain had turned this place into a sophisticated safe house, complete with multiple escape routes and basic survival gear. The wolves took up defensive positions around the chamber, their behavior suggesting they'd done this before. Cain's wolf stayed close to Alex, watching as he set up the laptop on a flat rock surface. The computer was heavily customized, hardened against both physical damage and electronic interference. It powered up quickly, revealing a complex encryption system that required multiple forms of authentication. Alex's hands moved over the keyboard, inputting the first layer of passwords, all phrases and references that only someone who knew Cain well would understand. Each successful authentication revealed another layer, another puzzle to solve. Cain had been brilliant with computers, always pushing the boundaries of what technology could do. This system was his masterpiece, designed to protect information that people were willing to kill to keep secret. As Alex worked through the security layers, he became aware of a change in the wolves' behavior. They were communicating with each other using subtle vocalizations and body language, coordinating their actions in ways that went far beyond standard pack behavior. Watching them, Alex began to understand what Cain might have discovered. These animals weren't just highly trained. They were demonstrating a level of cognitive sophistication that challenged our understanding of animal intelligence. Finally, the last encryption layer fell away, revealing a massive database of research files, video recordings, and personal logs. Alex opened the most recent log entry, dated just days before Cain's disappearance. The video showed his friend, looking tired but intensely focused, speaking directly to the camera. "Alex, if you're watching this, then they found out what we achieved here. The Echo Unit wolves aren't just trained animals. They're something entirely new. We discovered a way to enhance their cognitive capabilities, to create a bridge between human and canine intelligence. But it went further than anyone expected. They developed abilities we can't explain, levels of understanding that shouldn't be possible. Some people think it's too dangerous, that it challenges everything we think we know about consciousness and intelligence. They want to shut us down, to eliminate all evidence of what we achieved. But I couldn't let them destroy these extraordinary beings. The wolves chose to help me hide the evidence. They understood what was at stake. Watch over them, my friend. They're not just test subjects. They're conscious, self-aware beings who chose to protect this discovery at great personal risk." The video ended, leaving Alex with more questions than answers. He looked at Cain's wolf, seeing those intelligent amber eyes in a new light. The animal met his gaze with an awareness that suddenly made perfect sense. This wasn't just a trained military asset. This was a conscious being capable of complex thought and decision-making. The sound of the helicopters had faded, suggesting they'd lost their trail, but Alex knew they wouldn't give up easily. The wolves maintained their vigilant guard, their behavior demonstrating a clear understanding of tactical security. They weren't just following training protocols. They were actively adapting their strategy based on the situation. As Alex began diving deeper into Cain's research files, he found detailed documentation of the breakthrough, the combination of genetic modification and cognitive enhancement techniques that had produced these extraordinary animals. But more. Importantly, he found evidence of something even more revolutionary. The wolves had begun exhibiting capabilities that went beyond the program's original goals. They had developed ways of communicating and problem-solving that suggested their enhanced intelligence had evolved in unexpected directions. The implications were staggering. Cain hadn't just created more intelligent wolves. He'd inadvertently opened a door to something completely new, a form of consciousness that bridged the gap between human and animal intelligence. No wonder some people wanted this buried. It challenged fundamental assumptions about consciousness, intelligence, and the uniqueness of human cognitive capabilities. A soft whine from one of the wolves drew Alex's attention. Their behavior had changed, suggesting they'd detected something. Cain's wolf pressed against his leg, using their sophisticated communication technique to convey a message. Someone was approaching the cave system. Their pursuers hadn't given up. They just shifted to ground-based search patterns. Alex quickly began copying essential files to a secure drive, while simultaneously wiping traces of his access from the laptop system. Cain had left instructions for multiple contingency plans, including emergency extraction routes and secondary safe houses. The wolves were already moving toward one of the deeper tunnel systems, their behavior indicating they knew exactly where to go next. Looking into the amber eyes of Cain's wolf one more time, Alex saw not just intelligence, but understanding, a conscious awareness of the situation and its significance. Whatever happened next, he knew he was now part of something much bigger than himself. Cain's discovery had the potential to reshape our understanding of consciousness itself, and these extraordinary wolves were living proof of possibilities that most people couldn't even imagine. They needed to move now, to stay ahead of their pursuers, while protecting the evidence of what Nightwatch had really achieved. The truth about these remarkable animals had to be preserved, but more importantly, the wolves themselves needed to be protected. They weren't just test subjects or military assets. They were conscious beings who had chosen to help protect a discovery that could change everything. Moving silently through the deeper tunnel system, Alex followed the wolves' lead while his mind processed everything he'd learned from Cain's files. The cave network was more extensive than he'd realized, with passages that seemed to have been deliberately modified to accommodate both human and canine movement. Cain had clearly spent considerable time preparing this underground sanctuary, creating a complex network of escape routes and safe rooms. The temperature dropped further as they descended, their path taking them deeper into the mountain's limestone heart. The wolves moved with practiced efficiency, their enhanced intelligence evident in how they coordinated their movements through the narrow passages. Cain's wolf, whose project name Alex had discovered was Atlas in the files, maintained close proximity, occasionally using their sophisticated pressure point communication system to relay important information. Alex's flashlight beam revealed more evidence of Cain's preparations. Subtle markers on the cave walls, supply caches hidden in natural crevices, and what appeared to be emergency communication equipment stored in waterproof containers. But it was the research equipment that caught his attention, specialized monitoring devices and data collection systems, carefully concealed but clearly still active. "You've been continuing the research, haven't you?" Alex whispered to Atlas, noting how the wolf's ears twitched in response. According to Cain's files, the cognitive enhancement process hadn't been a one-time event. It was ongoing, with the wolves' capabilities continuing to evolve and develop. Cain had set up this underground network not just as a hiding place, But as a continuation of his groundbreaking work, the sounds of pursuit had grown distant, but Alex knew better than to relax. The thermal imaging equipment would be less effective this deep underground, but their pursuers would be using other tracking methods. The professional nature of the search team suggested they had access to sophisticated cave exploration equipment and probably detailed maps of the known tunnel systems. As they moved through a particularly narrow passage, Alex noticed something interesting about the wolves' behavior. They weren't just moving through the tunnels, they were actively checking and maintaining various pieces of equipment as they went. One wolf paused to adjust what appeared to be a seismic sensor, while another used its snout to clear debris from what looked like a data collection unit. Kane's files had hinted at this level of sophisticated behavior, but seeing it in person was extraordinary. These weren't just enhanced animals following training protocols. They were actively participating in the research process, understanding the importance of maintaining the equipment that monitored their own development. The tunnel system opened into another prepared chamber, this one larger and more extensively equipped than the first. Multiple computer systems lined the walls, all powered by what appeared to be a sophisticated solar array that somehow connected to the surface. Kane had created a complete underground research facility, hidden from anyone who might want to shut down his work. Atlas moved to one of the computer terminals, his behavior suggesting he wanted Alex to access it. The implications were staggering. The wolf wasn't just leading him to safety, it was actively trying to share information. Alex approached the terminal, noting its advanced security systems and custom modifications. Whatever Kane had been working on down here, he'd wanted to ensure the data would be preserved. As Alex began accessing the system, he found himself immersed in research data that went far beyond what had been in the laptop. Kane had documented extraordinary developments in the wolves' cognitive capabilities, problem-solving skills that approached human levels, communication abilities that suggested the development of abstract thinking, and most remarkably, signs of genuine self-awareness and conscious decision-making. The wolves had positioned themselves around the chamber in a defensive formation, but their attention was divided between security and the various pieces of research equipment. They moved with purpose, checking readings and adjusting settings. With a level of understanding that shouldn't have been possible, Alex watched as one wolf used its paw to calibrate a sensitive monitoring device, displaying fine motor control that spoke of both enhanced intelligence and extensive practice. A soft whine from Atlas drew Alex's attention to another section of data. Video recordings of training sessions that showed the wolves' capabilities evolving over time. The timestamps indicated that Kane had continued his research long after his official disappearance, documenting breakthroughs that would revolutionize our understanding of animal consciousness. But it was the most recent data that truly captured Alex's attention. The wolves hadn't just maintained their enhanced capabilities, they'd continued to develop new ones. Kane's notes described increasingly sophisticated communication methods, or problem-solving abilities that seemed to operate on an almost intuitive level, and most remarkably, signs of emotional intelligence that approached human complexity. A sudden change in the wolves' behavior alerted Alex to a new development. Their postures shifted to high alert, and Atlas pressed against his leg with urgent pressure patterns. Something was coming, not from the tunnels they'd used, but from another direction entirely. The wolves' reaction suggested this wasn't necessarily a threat, but rather something they'd been expecting. The far wall of the chamber contained what appeared to be a solid rock face, but as Alex watched, a section of it began to move. The engineering was remarkable, a hidden door designed to be virtually undetectable, operating on a silent mechanism that spoke of sophisticated design. As it opened, Alex found himself face to face with someone he'd thought he'd never see again. Marcus Kane stood in the doorway, looking older and more weathered than Alex remembered, but with the same intense focus in his eyes. "I knew you'd figure it out," he said quietly, stepping into the chamber. Atlas moved to greet him, displaying a level of joy and recognition that went far beyond normal handler-animal relationships. The whole disappearance, it was all planned? Alex asked, though he already knew the answer. The elaborate preparation of the cave system, the sophisticated research equipment, the continued development of the wolves' capabilities. None of this had been set up after Kane's disappearance. This had been years in the making. Kane nodded, moving to check one of the computer systems while Atlas stayed close to his side. "We discovered something too important to let them shut down, Alex. These wolves, they're not just enhanced animals. They're the beginning of something entirely new, a form of intelligence that bridges the gap between human and animal consciousness. But more than that, they're proof that consciousness itself is more complex, more adaptable than we ever imagined." The other wolves had gathered around Kane, their behavior displaying clear recognition and what could only be described as affection. These weren't just research subjects or military assets, they were partners in an extraordinary journey of discovery. Kane had spent the last 5 years working with them in secret, documenting their continuing evolution while staying one step ahead of those who wanted to bury their existence. "The search teams," Alex began, but Kane cut him off with a gesture. "Private military contractors working for people who think this kind of breakthrough is too dangerous to exist. They believe that proving animal consciousness can evolve to near-human levels would destabilize too many fundamental assumptions about human uniqueness. But they don't understand. This isn't about making animals more like humans. It's about discovering what consciousness really is, about understanding the true potential for intelligence in all its forms." As if to demonstrate his point, Atlas moved to one of the computer terminals and began manipulating controls with his snout and paws, displaying a level of technological interaction that should have been impossible. The screen filled with data, not just recordings, but active research results that the wolves themselves had been collecting and analyzing. "They're not just subjects of the research anymore," Kane explained, watching Alex's expression. "They're active participants, colleagues in the truest sense. They understand what we're trying to achieve here, and they've chosen to be part of it. That's what makes them so extraordinary. Not just their enhanced intelligence, but their capacity for conscious choice and ethical decision-making." The implications were staggering. Kane hadn't just enhanced these wolves' cognitive abilities. He'd helped them develop into something entirely new, conscious beings who could understand and participate in their own evolution. No wonder powerful people wanted this kept secret. It challenged everything we thought we knew about consciousness, intelligence, and the supposed uniqueness of human cognitive capabilities. But as Alex watched the wolves working with the research equipment, coordinating their activities with practiced efficiency, he realized this was about more than just scientific breakthrough. These extraordinary animals had become partners in one of the most important discoveries in human history, proof that consciousness itself was more flexible, more adaptable than anyone had imagined. And now he had to decide what to do with this knowledge, knowing that powerful forces were actively working to keep it hidden. Cain had trusted him with this secret, had prepared for years for this moment. The question was, what would they do next? The distant sound of search teams echoing through the cave system added urgency to their situation. Cain moved quickly to a sophisticated control panel, his fingers dancing across the interface with practiced efficiency. The wolves responded to his activity with coordinated movements, clearly familiar with whatever protocol was being initiated. "We need to move everything to the backup facility," Cain explained, his voice tight with controlled tension. "They're getting closer to finding this location, and we can't risk losing 5 years of research data. But more importantly, we can't let them get their hands on any of the wolves. What they've become, what they're capable of, it goes beyond anything that was officially documented in Night Watch." Alex watched as Atlas and the other wolves began a clearly rehearsed procedure, accessing various computer systems and initiating what appeared to be data transfer protocols. Their movements were precise, demonstrating not just training, but genuine understanding of the technical processes involved. Each wolf had specific tasks, working together with a level of coordination that spoke of long practice. The cognitive enhancement wasn't just about intelligence, Cain continued, moving to help one of the wolves with a particularly complex data transfer. It was about developing true consciousness, true self-awareness. But something unexpected happened. They began developing capabilities we hadn't anticipated. The enhanced neural pathways we created didn't just make them smarter. They opened up potential that was already there, locked in their genetic code. The main computer screens filled with streams of data, years of research being compressed and transferred through secure channels. Alex noticed that much of the recent data appeared to have been collected by the wolves themselves, their observations and experiences documented through sophisticated interface systems designed for their use. "Here, look at this," Cain said, pulling up a series of brain scan comparisons. "This is Atlas's neural activity from the initial enhancement procedure 5 years ago, and this," he pointed to a more recent scan, "is from last month. The complexity has increased exponentially, but not in ways we predicted. They're not just processing information more efficiently, they're developing entirely new neural pathways, new ways of understanding and interacting with the world." Atlas approached one of the larger display screens, his amber eyes focused intently on the data flowing across it. Using a combination of nose touches and paw movements, he navigated through complex file systems with ease. The other wolves worked at similar tasks, each responsible for specific aspects of what was clearly an emergency relocation protocol. "When I first realized what was happening," Cain explained, checking the progress of various data transfers, "I knew we couldn't let them shut it down. These wolves aren't just research subjects anymore. They're conscious beings making their own choices, contributing to their own evolution. The decision to help me disappear, to continue the research. In secret, that was their choice as much as mine." The sound of the search teams grew closer, and the wolves' behavior shifted subtly. 2 of them moved to defensive positions near the chamber's entrances, while the others continued their work with increased urgency. Alex noticed they were using their enhanced communication abilities to coordinate their actions, sharing information through a complex system of vocalizations and body language. "We've documented capabilities that go beyond anything we thought possible," Cain continued, moving to a secured storage unit. Not just problem-solving and tool use, but abstract thinking, emotional intelligence, even what appears to be a form of collective consciousness when they work together. But it's their ethical decision-making that's most remarkable. They understand concepts like right and wrong, choice and consequence, in ways that challenge our assumptions about animal consciousness. From the storage unit, Kane retrieved what looked like specialized equipment, compact devices designed to interface with the wolves' enhanced cognitive capabilities. Each wolf approached in turn, allowing Kane to secure the devices to their research collars. Atlas was last, and as Kane worked with the equipment, Alex could see the deep bond between them, not just handler and animal, but true colleagues in an extraordinary endeavor. The backup facility is more secure, better hidden, Kane explained, as he finished with Atlas's equipment. We've been preparing it for months, ever since we detected the first signs that they were getting close to finding us. But we needed someone else to know. Someone who would understand the importance of what we've discovered. That's why we arranged for you to find Atlas. The implications of that statement hit Alex hard. The wolf's appearance in his hunting grounds hadn't been random. It had been a carefully planned contact, designed to bring him into their secret world. Atlas had been waiting for him, knowing he would recognize the significance of a Nightwatch wolf and understand what needed to be done. A sudden alert from one of the computer systems drew their attention. Kane moved quickly to check the display, his expression tightening. "They're using seismic mapping equipment," he said grimly. "They're building a detailed picture of the cave system. We have maybe an hour before they find this chamber." The wolves' activity increased, their movements becoming more focused as they completed their assigned tasks. Alex watched in amazement as they executed complex technical procedures with precision that would have impressed human operators. The level of understanding they displayed went far beyond trained behavior. This was genuine comprehension of sophisticated technology. What they're trying to suppress isn't just the enhanced intelligence, Kane said, beginning to shut down systems as their data transfers completed. It's the proof that consciousness itself is more fluid, more adaptable than we ever imagined. These wolves aren't just thinking differently, they're experiencing reality in ways we're only beginning to understand. The implications go beyond military applications or scientific breakthrough. This challenges fundamental assumptions about the nature of consciousness itself. Atlas approached Alex, using their sophisticated pressure point communication to convey complex information. The wolf's message was clear. They needed his help to protect not just the research, but the truth about what they had become. This wasn't just about scientific discovery anymore. It was about preserving the existence of something extraordinary. Kane moved to what appeared to be a normal section of cave wall, pressing his hand against specific points in a precise sequence. A hidden panel slid open, revealing a tunnel that didn't appear on any of the cave system maps. "This leads to the backup facility," he explained. "We've got multiple routes prepared, ways to split up and reconnect if necessary. The wolves know all the paths. They helped design the escape protocols." The sophistication of their preparation was impressive. Kane had spent years creating this hidden network, working with the wolves to develop and refine their evacuation plans. Every detail had been considered, from the technical aspects of preserving their research to the tactical challenges of moving undetected through the mountain's complex cave systems. "Once we reach the backup facility," Kane continued, checking the final data transfers, "I can show you everything we've documented. the full extent of their capabilities, the breakthroughs we've made in understanding consciousness itself. But, more importantly, you'll see why this can't be suppressed, why the truth about what these extraordinary beings have become must be preserved. The wolves had begun moving equipment into the hidden tunnel, their actions coordinated and efficient. Each one knew exactly what needed to be done, working together with a level of cooperation that demonstrated both their enhanced intelligence and their deep understanding of the situation's importance. Atlas stayed close to Alex, clearly designated as his guide through the complex tunnel system they would need to navigate. The wolf's behavior suggested both trust and purpose. This wasn't just about escaping pursuit. It was about bringing Alex fully into their world, helping him understand the true significance of what Cain had discovered. As the last systems were shut down and the chamber prepared for abandonment, Alex realized he had crossed a point of no return. He was now part of something much bigger than himself, the preservation of a discovery that could change our understanding of consciousness itself, and the protection of extraordinary beings who had chosen to help guide that discovery. Cain checked a final display, then nodded to the wolves. "Everything's ready. From here on, we follow their lead. They know these tunnels better than anyone, and they've been preparing for this moment for months. Welcome to the real Project Nightwatch, Alex. The truth is far more remarkable than anything that was officially documented." Moving through the hidden tunnel network, Alex was struck by the sophisticated engineering that had gone into its creation. The passages were carefully designed to accommodate both human and wolf movement, with subtle markers and guidance systems that only enhanced beings would recognize. Atlas led the way, his movements precise and purposeful, while the other wolves maintained a protective formation around their small group. Cain explained as they moved. His voice kept low despite the sound-dampening features built into the tunnel system. The enhanced neural pathways we developed didn't just increase their intelligence, it unlocked something that was already there, potential buried deep in their genetic code. We thought we were creating better military assets, but what we actually did was awaken a form of consciousness that challenges everything we think we know about intelligence. The tunnel system seemed to descend deeper into the mountain, following natural limestone formations that had been carefully modified. Alex noticed environmental monitoring equipment placed at regular intervals, collecting data about everything, from air quality to seismic activity. The wolves appeared to be checking these devices as they passed, ensuring their network of sensors remained operational. Each wolf has developed unique capabilities, Cain continued, watching as one of them adjusted a monitoring device with remarkable precision. Atlas has an extraordinary capacity for strategic planning and technological interaction. Others have developed specialized skills in areas like data analysis, environmental monitoring, even medical diagnosis. But it's their collective intelligence that's most remarkable. When they work together, they achieve levels of problem-solving that exceed anything we thought possible. Their path took them through a series of chambers, each equipped with different types of research equipment. Alex realized they were moving through a complete underground research facility, one that had been operating in secret for years. The wolves moved through these spaces with familiar ease, their behavior suggesting they were as much researchers as research subjects. The official Nightwatch program never understood what we'd actually achieved, Cain explained, pausing to help. One of the wolves secured some sensitive equipment for transport. They were focused on military applications, enhanced sensors, improved tactical capabilities, better command response. but we'd accidentally opened a door to something far more significant. These wolves aren't just following commands anymore. They're making conscious choices about their own development. Atlas suddenly signaled for silence, his body language alerting them to something ahead. The other wolves immediately took up defensive positions, their movements synchronized with practiced precision. Through the rock, they could hear the faint sound of drilling equipment. The search teams were using industrial boring machines to map the cave system. Kane quickly led them down a side tunnel, one that appeared to be a natural formation, but showed subtle signs of modification. "We've prepared for this," he whispered. "The wolves helped us design multiple escape routes, including some that use natural features to mask our trail. They understand terrain mapping and geological structures in ways we never anticipated." The new tunnel led them to what appeared to be a dead end. But Atlas approached a specific section of wall, using his paw to activate a hidden mechanism. A section of rock face slid silently aside, revealing a sophisticated airlock system. The engineering was remarkable, a completely hidden facility within the mountain's natural structure. "This is one of our emergency shelters," Kane explained. As they moved through the airlock, "We have several spread throughout the mountain system, each equipped with enough supplies and research equipment to continue our work if we're discovered." The wolves helped design these spaces, incorporating features that serve both human and enhanced canine needs. The shelter was larger than Alex expected, with multiple chambers serving different functions. Research equipment lined the walls, along with sophisticated communication systems and what appeared to be independent power generation. The wolves immediately moved to various stations, beginning what was clearly a practiced protocol for securing their temporary base. "Look at this," Kane said, activating a large display screen. "These are brain scans from the past month, showing neural activity patterns we've never seen before. The wolves aren't just processing information differently, they're developing entirely new ways of thinking, new ways of understanding reality itself. Their consciousness has evolved beyond anything we thought possible." The screen showed complex neural mapping data, with patterns that seemed to shift and flow in unusual ways. Atlas approached the display, his attention focused on the data. With clear understanding, using a combination of nose touches and paw movements, he began navigating through different screens, pulling up comparative analyses that demonstrated the evolution of their cognitive capabilities. "They're not just subjects anymore," Kane said softly, watching Atlas work. "They're actively participating in their own development, helping us understand what they're becoming." The decision to continue this research in secret wasn't just mine. They understood the implications of what was happening to them, and they chose to help protect this discovery. The other wolves were setting up monitoring equipment, each one responsible for specific aspects of their temporary base's operation. Their behavior displayed not just training, but genuine comprehension of the technical systems they were working with. They communicated with each other using a sophisticated combination of vocalizations, body language, and direct interaction with the equipment. The enhanced neural pathways created unexpected connections, Kane continued, moving to help. One of the wolves calibrate a sensitive piece of equipment. They developed abilities we never anticipated, not just improved cognitive function, but new ways of processing and sharing information. When they work together, they achieve levels of problem-solving that exceed anything we've documented in non-human species. Alex watched as the wolves coordinated their activities, noting how their behavior suggested both individual intelligence and collective consciousness. They weren't just working together, they were sharing information, and adapting their strategies in real time, displaying a level of cooperation that went beyond normal pack behavior. The official program was shut down because some people thought this kind of enhancement was too dangerous, Kane explained, checking data readings from various monitors. They worried about the implications of animals developing near human levels of intelligence. But what they really feared was what this discovery suggests about consciousness itself, that it's more fluid, more adaptable than we ever imagined. A sudden alert from one of the monitoring systems drew their attention. The wolves responded immediately, their behavior shifting into a more focused state. Atlas moved to a central control panel, using his enhanced capabilities to bring up detailed sensor readings. "They're using ground-penetrating radar," Kane said grimly, studying the data. "Advanced equipment, probably military-grade. They're mapping every cavity in the mountain system. We need to be ready to move again if they get too close." The wolves have already planned multiple evacuation routes. They understand the technology, being used to track us, and have developed countermeasures. The sophistication of their preparation was impressive. This wasn't just about hiding, it was about preserving something revolutionary. The wolves had become partners in protecting a discovery that challenged fundamental assumptions about consciousness and intelligence. Atlas approached Alex, using their pressure point communication system to convey complex information. The wolf's message was clear. They needed to prepare for the possibility of splitting up, using multiple routes to reach their final destination. This wasn't just a tactical decision. It was a carefully considered strategy developed through collective analysis of their situation. "What they've become," Kane said, watching the interaction, "goes beyond enhanced intelligence. They've developed a form of consciousness that combines the best aspects of wolf and human cognition. Their pack mentality has evolved into something new, a collective intelligence that maintains individual awareness while achieving levels of cooperation we barely understand." The other wolves continued their work, each one focused on specific tasks, while maintaining awareness of the overall situation. Their behavior demonstrated both individual capability and group coordination, suggesting levels of cognitive sophistication that exceeded anything in the official Nightwatch documentation. Looking into Atlas's amber eyes, Alex could see what Kane meant. These weren't just enhanced animals, they were conscious beings who had chosen to participate in their own evolution. The intelligence in those eyes wasn't just the result of scientific modification. It was something new, something that bridged the gap between human and animal consciousness in ways that could revolutionize our understanding of intelligence itself. The emergency shelter's monitoring systems painted a complex picture of their situation. Multiple search teams were now operating in the cave system, using sophisticated equipment to map every cavity and tunnel. Atlas and the other wolves worked at various control stations, their enhanced capabilities allowing them to process and analyze the incoming data with remarkable efficiency. "They're using a systematic search pattern," Kane observed, studying the sensor readings. "Professional. Teams, probably ex-military. They know what they're looking for, not just enhanced wolves, but evidence of continued research. If they find this facility, they'll understand how far the program has really progressed." The wolves' behavior had shifted into what Kane called their tactical analysis mode. Their enhanced intelligence focused on processing multiple streams of information simultaneously. They worked in coordinated pairs, each team responsible for monitoring different aspects of the search operation closing in around them. The neural enhancement didn't just increase their processing capacity, Kane explained, watching as Atlas navigated through complex data displays. It created new ways of understanding and analyzing information. They don't just recognize patterns. They understand context and implications in ways that go beyond trained responses. Alex watched in amazement as the wolves operated sophisticated equipment with practiced ease. Their movements weren't just precise. They demonstrated genuine comprehension of the technology they were using. One wolf adjusted scanning frequencies, while another analyzed signal patterns. Their actions coordinated through their advanced communication system. A sudden alert from one of the monitoring stations drew everyone's attention. Atlas quickly moved to the main display, using his specialized interface skills to bring up detailed sensor data. The image showed a three-dimensional map of the surrounding cave system, with multiple red dots indicating search team positions. "They're using some kind of new scanning technology," Kane said, his voice tight with concern. "Something that can penetrate deeper into the rock than standard ground penetrating radar." The wolves recognized the signal pattern. They've adapted their sensor equipment to detect and analyze it. The sophistication of the search operation confirmed what Kane had been saying about the importance of their discovery. These weren't just security teams looking for escaped research subjects. This was a coordinated effort to contain something that powerful people considered too dangerous to exist. Atlas suddenly tensed, his attention focused on a particular data stream. Using their pressure point communication system, he conveyed complex information to Kane and Alex. The search teams had deployed some kind of biological detection equipment, technology specifically designed to locate enhanced wolf signatures. "This is what we've been preparing for," Kane said, moving quickly to a secured storage unit. "They've developed ways to track the unique biological markers created by the enhancement process. But the wolves have been working on countermeasures. They understood the technology would eventually be developed." From the storage unit, Kane retrieved what looked like modified research collars. Each wolf approached in turn, allowing him to replace their current equipment with these new devices. Alex noticed that the wolves seemed to understand exactly what the equipment was for, their behavior suggesting they had been involved in its development. "The collars create a kind of biological masking field," Kane explained as he worked. "The wolves helped us design them, using their enhanced understanding of their own modified biology. They're not just test subjects anymore. They're active participants in developing ways to protect themselves and their discoveries." The other wolves had begun shutting down non-essential systems, carefully erasing traces of their presence, while preserving critical research data. Their actions displayed not just training, but strategic thinking. They understood which information was most important to protect and how best to secure it. "We need to move to the backup facility," Kane said, checking the final collar adjustments. "It's deeper in the mountain system, with better natural shielding against their detection equipment. The wolves have been preparing it for months, incorporating everything they've learned about avoiding these new tracking technologies." Atlas led them to what appeared to be a solid rock wall, activating a hidden mechanism that revealed another tunnel entrance. The engineering was remarkable, a completely concealed passage that wouldn't appear on any scanning equipment. The wolves had clearly been instrumental in its design, understanding both the technical and tactical aspects of creating secure escape routes. As they moved into the new tunnel system, Alex noticed how the wolves' formation had changed. They weren't just maintaining a protective perimeter, They were actively monitoring their surroundings, using their enhanced senses in conjunction with the sophisticated equipment they carried. The enhancement process affected different aspects of their intelligence in unique ways, Kane explained, as they moved. Some developed stronger analytical capabilities. Others showed more aptitude for tactical planning or technological interaction. But when they worked together, they achieved something extraordinary, a kind of collective intelligence that combines their individual strengths. The tunnel system itself showed signs of careful design, with features that served both practical and tactical purposes. Natural limestone formations had been subtly modified to create hidden sensors and emergency exits, while maintaining the appearance of undisturbed cave structures. They understand architecture and engineering principles, Kane continued, indicating various features as they passed. Not just in terms of physical construction, but how different materials interact with scanning equipment. They've helped us design spaces that are virtually undetectable using standard search technologies. The wolves moved with practiced efficiency through the tunnel system, each one responsible for specific aspects of their evacuation protocol. They checked and secured monitoring equipment as they passed, ensuring their sensor network remained operational while leaving no trace of their presence. A sudden change in the wolves' behavior indicated they had detected something new. Atlas quickly conveyed information through their communication system. The search teams had begun using some kind of acoustic mapping technology, sending sound waves through the rock to build detailed underground maps. "They're getting more sophisticated," Kane said grimly, studying data from one of the portable monitoring devices. "But so are we. The wolves have been developing new ways to mask our presence, using their understanding of how sound waves interact with different rock formations." The tunnel system began to angle downward, following natural fault lines in the mountain's structure. Alex noticed that the wolves seemed to be using some kind of navigation system integrated into their new collars, coordinating their movements with remarkable precision. "The backup facility is built into a natural cavern system," Kane explained, checking their progress on a portable display. "The wolves helped us identify the location. They understood how the surrounding rock formations would help shield us from detection. Their grasp of geological principles is extraordinary." Atlas suddenly signaled for complete silence, his enhanced senses detecting something the others hadn't yet noticed. The other wolves immediately shifted into defensive positions, their movements synchronized with practiced precision. Through the rock, they could hear the faint whine of drilling equipment. The search teams were getting closer. Kane quickly led them down a side passage, one that appeared to be a natural formation, but showed subtle signs of modification. "We've prepared for this," he whispered. "The wolves helped us design multiple fallback routes, including some that use natural features to mask our trail. They understand terrain mapping and geological structures in ways we never anticipated." The sophistication of their evacuation plan demonstrated just how far the wolves' capabilities had evolved. This wasn't just about enhanced intelligence or improved physical abilities. These extraordinary beings had developed a deep understanding of complex scientific and tactical principles, applying their knowledge in ways that challenged fundamental assumptions about animal consciousness. As they moved deeper into the mountain's hidden network of passages, Alex realized they were involved in something far more significant than just evading capture. They were protecting a discovery that could revolutionize our understanding of consciousness itself, proof that intelligence could evolve in ways we had never imagined possible. The new tunnel system led them deeper into the mountain's heart. following a path that seemed to defy normal geological patterns. Atlas and the other wolves moved with increased urgency, their enhanced senses detecting something that put them on high alert. The sophisticated equipment integrated into their collars collected and processed data continuously, allowing them to monitor multiple threat vectors simultaneously. "They're changing their search pattern," Kane observed, studying readings from a portable monitoring device. Moving in a spiral formation, using multiple types of scanning equipment. The wolves recognized the pattern. It's a new search protocol developed specifically for tracking enhanced beings in complex underground environments. The implications were clear. Whoever was hunting them had been preparing for this, developing specialized techniques and equipment. The wolves' behavior suggested they had anticipated this, their own countermeasures evolving through their collective analysis and planning. Alex watched as the wolves coordinated their movements, using their sophisticated communication system. Each animal had specific responsibilities, from monitoring environmental conditions to analyzing search team movements. Their actions displayed not just enhanced intelligence, but genuine strategic thinking. The neural enhancement created unexpected connections, Kane explained, as they moved through a particularly narrow passage. They developed abilities we never anticipated, not just improved cognitive function, but new ways of processing and sharing information. When they worked together, they achieve levels of problem-solving that exceed anything we've documented in non-human species. The tunnel opened into what appeared to be another research station, this one more sophisticated than the previous shelter. Multiple computer systems lined the walls, along with what looked like advanced medical equipment. The wolves immediately moved to various stations, beginning what was clearly a practiced protocol for securing their position. "This is one of our primary research facilities," Kane said, activating main power systems. "We've been documenting the ongoing evolution of their capabilities, trying to understand how their enhanced consciousness continues to develop. The wolves themselves have become active participants in the research, helping us analyze and interpret the data." Atlas approached one of the larger display screens, using his specialized interface skills to bring up complex neural mapping data. The images showed patterns of brain activity that seemed to defy conventional understanding of canine cognitive capabilities. Other wolves worked at different stations, each focusing on specific aspects of their ongoing research. "Look at this," Kane said, indicating a particular neural pattern. "This isn't just enhanced processing power. It's evidence of completely new neural pathways, new ways of understanding and interpreting information. They're not just thinking more efficiently, they're thinking in ways we didn't know were possible." The facility's monitoring systems suddenly registered multiple alerts. The wolves responded immediately, their behavior shifting into a more focused state. Atlas quickly brought up detailed sensor readings, showing the search team's positions relative to their location. "They're using some kind of new scanning technology," Kane said, studying the data. "Something that can detect the unique energy signatures produced by enhanced neural activity. But the wolves have been preparing for this. They understood the theoretical principles behind such technology and helped develop countermeasures." Alex watched as the wolves worked with remarkable coordination, each one handling specific aspects of their defensive protocols. They weren't just following trained procedures, they were actively analyzing and adapting their strategies based on real-time data. The enhancement process affected different aspects of their intelligence in unique ways, Kane explained, helping one of the wolves calibrate sensitive equipment. Some developed stronger analytical capabilities, others showed more aptitude for tactical planning or technological interaction. But their most remarkable ability is how they combine these individual strengths into collective action. The facility's security systems showed the search teams were moving closer, their sophisticated equipment probing deeper into the mountain structure. The wolves' behavior suggested they had anticipated this development, their preparations including multiple contingency plans. "We need to initiate the next phase," Kane said, moving to a secured storage unit. "The wolves have been working on something extraordinary, a way to mask not just their physical presence, but the unique neural signatures created by their enhanced consciousness." From the storage unit, he retrieved what looked like advanced versions of their current equipment. The wolves approached in sequence, each one allowing Kane to upgrade their systems. Their behavior suggested complete understanding of the technology and its purpose. These new systems, Kane explained as he worked, were designed with direct input from the wolves. They understood the theoretical principles behind neural signature detection and helped develop ways to counter it. This isn't just about evading detection, it's proof of their ability to comprehend and apply complex scientific concepts. Atlas suddenly tensed. His attention focused on new data appearing on the main display. Using their pressure point communication system, he conveyed urgent information. The search teams had deployed some kind of new tracking technology, something even more sophisticated than their previous equipment. "They're not just looking for enhanced wolves anymore," Kane said grimly, studying the sensor readings. "They're searching for specific patterns of neural activity. The unique signatures we documented in the Echo unit, they must have accessed some of our old research data." The other wolves had begun implementing new security protocols, their actions displaying both urgency and precision. They worked seamlessly together, their enhanced capabilities allowing them to process and respond to multiple threats simultaneously. "What they've become," Kane continued, watching the wolves work, "goes beyond anything we imagined possible. They've developed a form of consciousness that combines the best aspects of wolf and human cognition. Their pack mentality has evolved into something entirely new, a collective intelligence that maintains individual awareness while achieving unprecedented levels of cooperation." The facility's sensors registered more alerts. The search teams were deploying additional equipment, expanding their detection capabilities. The wolves responded by activating more sophisticated countermeasures, their understanding of the technology evident in their precise adjustments. "We need to move to the final facility," Kane said, checking the latest sensor data. "It's deeper in the mountain system, with better natural shielding against their detection equipment. The wolves have been preparing it for months, incorporating everything they've learned about avoiding these new tracking technologies." Atlas led them to another hidden passage, this one concealed behind what appeared to be standard research equipment. The engineering was remarkable, a completely hidden escape route that wouldn't appear on any scanning equipment. The wolves had clearly been instrumental in its design, understanding both the technical and tactical aspects of creating secure evacuation routes. As they moved into the new tunnel system, Alex noticed how the wolves' formation had changed. They weren't just maintaining a protective perimeter. They were actively monitoring their surroundings, using their enhanced senses in conjunction with their sophisticated equipment. The passage began to descend more steeply, following what appeared to be natural fault lines in the mountain structure. The wolves moved with perfect coordination, their enhanced capabilities allowing them to navigate the challenging terrain while maintaining their defensive positions. The final facility, Kane explained as they descended, represents everything we've learned about working with enhanced consciousness. The wolves helped design every aspect of it, incorporating their understanding of both technological and natural systems. It's not just a research station, it's proof of what's possible when we truly collaborate with enhanced intelligence. The sophistication of their preparation demonstrated just how far the wolves' capabilities had evolved. This wasn't just about enhanced intelligence or improved physical abilities. These extraordinary beings had developed a deep understanding of complex scientific and tactical principles, applying their knowledge in ways that challenged fundamental assumptions about consciousness itself. The descent into the mountain's depths continued through an intricate network of passages that seemed to defy natural cave formation. Atlas led them with unwavering confidence, his enhanced senses working in concert with the sophisticated equipment integrated into his new collar. The other wolves maintained their protective formation, each one monitoring different aspects of their surroundings with remarkable precision. This section was actually designed by the wolves, Kane explained, as they navigated a particularly complex intersection of tunnels. They understood how different rock formations affect scanning equipment and helped create paths that naturally mask our presence. Their grasp of geological principles and electromagnetic interference patterns is extraordinary. The tunnel system itself was a testament to the wolves' evolved intelligence. Natural features had been subtly modified to create hidden sensors and emergency exits while maintaining the appearance of undisturbed cave structures. Every aspect of the design showed evidence of both human engineering and enhanced wolf intelligence working in perfect harmony. A sudden alert from the wolves' monitoring equipment drew their attention. Atlas quickly accessed a nearby sensor panel, his movements displaying practiced efficiency as he brought up detailed scanning data. The search teams above had deployed new equipment, something that hadn't appeared in their previous encounters. "They're using quantum detection systems," Kane said grimly, studying the data. "Technology designed to detect the unique quantum signatures created by enhanced neural activity. We theorized it was possible, but didn't expect them to develop it so quickly." The wolves recognized the pattern. They've been preparing for this possibility. The other wolves immediately began implementing countermeasures, their actions coordinated through their sophisticated communication system. Each animal had specific responsibilities, working together with a level of cooperation that demonstrated both individual intelligence and collective consciousness. The enhancement process didn't just increase their cognitive capabilities, Kane explained, as they moved deeper into the mountain. It created new ways of understanding and processing information. They don't just recognize patterns, they understand underlying principles and can adapt their knowledge to new situations. The passage opened into what appeared to be another research station, but this one was different from the previous facilities. The integration of technology and natural cave features was more sophisticated, showing evidence of design principles that went beyond conventional human engineering. "This is one of our advanced research stations," Kane said, activating primary systems. The wolves helped design every aspect of it, incorporating their understanding of both technological and natural systems. It's not just a facility, it's a demonstration of what's possible when enhanced intelligence is allowed to fully develop. Atlas moved to a central control station, his interactions with the sophisticated equipment showing both precision and understanding. The other wolves took up positions around the chamber, each one responsible for specific aspects of the facility's operation. Their behavior displayed not just training, but genuine comprehension of complex systems. "Look at this," Kane said, indicating a large display screen showing multiple data streams. These are real-time neural activity patterns from the wolves. The complexity has increased exponentially since the initial enhancement. They're not just processing information. Differently, they're developing entirely new ways of thinking. The facility's sensors suddenly registered multiple alerts. The search teams had adjusted their search pattern, using their new quantum detection equipment to probe deeper into the mountain structure. The wolves responded immediately, their actions showing both urgency and tactical precision. "They're getting closer to understanding what we actually achieved here," Kane said, watching the wolves work. "The quantum signatures they're detecting, they're evidence of consciousness operating at a level we barely understand. The wolves aren't just enhanced animals anymore. They're something entirely new." Alex watched as the wolves coordinated their defensive measures, each one handling specific aspects of their security protocols. Their actions displayed not just enhanced intelligence, but genuine strategic thinking. Their understanding of the situation evident in every precise movement. The neural enhancement created unexpected connections, Kane continued, helping one of the wolves calibrate sensitive equipment. "They developed abilities we never anticipated, not just improved cognitive function, but new ways of processing and sharing information. When they work together, they achieve levels of problem-solving that exceed anything we've documented in non-human species." Atlas suddenly tensed, his attention focused on new data appearing on the main display. Using their pressure point communication system, he conveyed urgent information. The search teams had begun deploying some kind of new containment technology, something designed specifically for enhanced beings. "They're not just trying to find us anymore," Kane said, studying the sensor readings. "They're preparing to capture and contain enhanced consciousness." The wolves understand what that means. They've been analyzing the theoretical principles behind such technology for months. The other wolves had begun implementing more sophisticated countermeasures, their actions displaying both urgency and precision. They worked seamlessly together, their enhanced capabilities allowing them to process and respond to multiple threats simultaneously. "What they've become," Kane explained, watching the wolves work, "goes beyond anything we imagined possible. They've developed a form of consciousness that combines the best aspects of wolf and human cognition. Their pack mentality has evolved into something entirely new, a collective intelligence that maintains individual awareness while achieving unprecedented levels of cooperation." The facility's sensors registered more alerts. The search teams were expanding their detection grid, using multiple types of scanning equipment simultaneously. The wolves responded by activating more sophisticated countermeasures, their understanding of the technology evident in their precise adjustments. "We need to move to the final facility," Kane said, checking the latest sensor data. "It's deeper in the mountain system, with better natural shielding against their detection equipment. The wolves have been preparing it for months, incorporating everything they've learned about avoiding these new tracking technologies." Atlas led them to another hidden passage, this one concealed behind what appeared to be natural rock formations. The engineering was remarkable, a completely hidden escape route that wouldn't appear on any scanning equipment. The wolves had clearly been instrumental in its design, understanding both the technical and tactical aspects of creating secure evacuation routes. As they moved into the new tunnel system, Alex noticed how the wolves' formation had changed. They weren't just maintaining a protective perimeter. They were actively monitoring their surroundings, using their enhanced senses in conjunction with their sophisticated equipment. The passage began to descend more steeply, following what appeared to be natural fault lines in the mountain structure. The wolves moved with perfect coordination, their enhanced capabilities allowing them to navigate the challenging terrain while maintaining their defensive positions. The final facility, Kane explained as they descended, represents everything we've learned about working with enhanced consciousness. The wolves helped design every aspect of it, incorporating their understanding of both technological and natural systems. It's not just a research station, it's proof of what's possible when we truly collaborate with enhanced intelligence. The sophistication of their preparation demonstrated just how far the wolves' capabilities had evolved. This wasn't just about enhanced intelligence or improved physical abilities. These extraordinary beings had developed a deep understanding of complex scientific and tactical principles, applying their knowledge in ways that challenged fundamental assumptions about consciousness itself. The tunnel system continued to wind deeper into the mountain, each turn and intersection showing evidence of careful design. The wolves moved with increasing urgency, their enhanced senses detecting something that put them on high alert. Their sophisticated equipment processed data continuously, allowing them to monitor multiple threat vectors simultaneously. The final facility emerged before them like something from another world, a testament to what was possible when enhanced. Intelligence and human ingenuity worked in perfect harmony. Carved deep within the mountain's heart, it represented the culmination of everything Kane and the wolves had achieved together. Atlas led them through a series of sophisticated security checkpoints, each one demonstrating levels of technological integration that went far beyond conventional design. "This is where everything comes together," Kane said, activating the facility's primary systems. The wolves didn't just help design this place, they created entirely new ways of thinking about how enhanced consciousness could interact with technology. What you're seeing is just the surface of what they've achieved. The central chamber was massive, its walls lined with advanced research equipment and monitoring systems. The wolves moved to their stations with practiced efficiency, each one responsible for specific aspects of the facility's operation. Their behavior displayed not just training, but genuine understanding of the complex systems they were managing. Suddenly, Atlas tensed, his attention focused on incoming data streams. The other wolves responded immediately, their collective consciousness processing information with remarkable speed. Through their sophisticated communication system, they conveyed urgent information. The search teams had discovered something that changed everything. They found traces of the original research, Kane said grimly, studying the data. Not just the enhancement process, but evidence of what the wolves have become. They're not just trying to contain us anymore, they're preparing for a full extraction operation. The facility's sensors showed multiple teams converging on their location, using combinations of quantum detection equipment and advanced scanning technology. But the wolves had prepared for this moment, their enhanced intelligence having anticipated and planned for various scenarios. "What they don't understand," Kane explained, moving to a central control station, "is that this isn't just about enhanced animals anymore. The wolves have evolved beyond anything we imagined possible. They're not just thinking differently. They're experiencing reality in ways we're only beginning to comprehend. Atlas approached a sophisticated interface system, his movements displaying both urgency and precision. The other wolves coordinated their actions, each one contributing to what appeared to be a carefully planned protocol. Their behavior suggested they were initiating something far more significant than simple defensive measures. "They're activating the Nexus," Kane said, his voice filled with both pride and concern. "It's something they developed themselves, a way to share consciousness across enhanced minds. We've never fully understood how it works, but it represents capabilities far beyond what the original program ever envisioned." The chamber's lighting changed as new systems came online. The wolves moved with increased purpose, their actions synchronized in ways that suggested deeper coordination than mere training. They were preparing for something extraordinary, something that would challenge fundamental assumptions about consciousness itself. "The search teams will breach our outer defenses soon," Kane continued, checking multiple data streams. "But the wolves have been preparing for this moment. What happens next will prove that consciousness isn't limited by conventional boundaries. That intelligence can evolve in ways we never imagined possible." Atlas suddenly moved to the chamber's center, the other wolves forming a precise circle around him. Their enhanced equipment began emitting patterns of energy that the facility's sensors struggled to classify. Kane watched with intense focus, understanding that they were witnessing something unprecedented. "They're not just sharing information," he explained, his voice quiet with awe. "They're creating a unified field of consciousness, something that transcends individual minds while maintaining distinct awareness. This is what they've been working toward, what they've been protecting." The chamber filled with patterns of light and energy as the Nexus activated fully. The wolves' consciousness merged in ways that defied conventional understanding, creating something that existed beyond physical limitations. Their enhanced intelligence had evolved into something entirely new, a form of shared awareness that maintained individual identity while achieving unprecedented levels of cooperation. "This is why they can't be allowed to suppress this discovery," Kane said, watching as the unified consciousness field stabilized. "The wolves haven't just developed enhanced intelligence. They've discovered a new form of existence, a way of experiencing reality that challenges everything we think we know about consciousness itself." The facility's sensors registered massive breaches in their outer defenses. Search teams were moving through the tunnel systems, their advanced equipment probing deeper into the mountain's structure. But the wolves remained focused on their task, their unified consciousness working toward something beyond mere escape or survival. "They're not trying to run," Kane explained, understanding dawning in his eyes. "They're preparing to share what they've discovered, not just with us, but with any consciousness capable of receiving it. The Nexus isn't just a defense system, it's a way of preserving and transmitting knowledge across boundaries we thought were absolute." Atlas's amber eyes met Alex's, conveying understanding that transcended normal communication. Through their sophisticated interface, the wolf shared visions of possibilities, futures where enhanced consciousness could evolve freely, where the boundaries between different forms of intelligence blurred and merged in ways that created something entirely new. The chamber shook as the search teams breached closer defenses, but the wolves maintained their focus. The Nexus had achieved full power, creating patterns of energy and information that defied conventional analysis. They weren't just protecting their discovery anymore. They were ensuring it would survive beyond any attempt to contain it. "It's done," Kane said softly, as the energy patterns reached their peak. "They've succeeded in what they set out to do. The knowledge of what they've become, what they've discovered about consciousness itself, it can't be suppressed or contained anymore. It exists now in ways that transcend physical limitations. The unified consciousness field began to dissipate, but something had changed. The wolves moved with new purpose, their enhanced intelligence having achieved something remarkable. They had created a legacy that would continue to evolve and develop, challenging assumptions about consciousness and intelligence for generations to come. As the search teams made their final approach, Atlas looked at Alex one last time. In those intelligent amber eyes, he saw not just enhanced consciousness, but a promise that what they had discovered here would change everything we thought we knew about the nature of intelligence itself. The wolves had not just evolved, they had opened doors to understanding that could never be closed again. The truth about Project Nightwatch, about what the wolves had become, would survive. Not in hidden facilities or secret research, but in the very nature of consciousness itself, in the possibility that intelligence could evolve in ways we had never imagined possible. The wolves had protected not just their discovery, but the future of understanding itself. And in that final moment, as the chamber filled with the sound of approaching teams, Alex understood what Kane had known all along. This wasn't just about enhanced animals or military applications. It was about the very nature of consciousness, about possibilities that would continue to evolve and develop long after this day was done. The legacy of what these extraordinary beings had achieved would live on, challenging our understanding of intelligence and consciousness for generations to come. In trying to suppress this discovery, those in power had inadvertently ensured its survival in ways they could never have anticipated. The truth about what consciousness could become was now part of reality itself, waiting to be discovered by those ready to understand it. The hunt that had begun with a wolf tied to a tree had led to something far more significant, proof that consciousness itself was more remarkable, more adaptable, and more extraordinary than anyone had imagined possible. And in the end, that truth would prove impossible to contain or suppress, just as the wolves had planned all along. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.